Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this public hearing where we're going to consider a request for transferring a liquor license this evening. At this time, I'll turn it over to our solicitor to guide us from here.
So this is a request to transfer a liquor license R16097 to CHR Corp. doing business as Rudders. The applicant is CHR Corp. doing business as Rudders, and the property is 725 Arsenal Road, York Haven, PA 17402. So this is a hearing on the record before the Board of Supervisors of Springettsbury Township. This means that there is a stenographic recording of the proceedings this evening. Please state your name before speaking the first time so the stenographer can record your comments. The stenographer cannot record hand gestures or nonverbal descriptions, so please speak clearly and verbally describe the subject of your testimony. Any exhibits to be entered on the record and used in testimony will be marked and at least one original submitted to the stenographer. We have a sign-in sheet for anyone who wants to officially become a party to this proceeding. If you potentially object to this application, I don't think there's anyone here, and may wish to appeal any decision made by this board, it is imperative you sign in and state your intention to be a party to the proceeding. The hearing will work as follows. First, the applicant will put on their case in support of the application. Next, the board members and myself will have an opportunity to cross-examine the applicant and ask questions. Then anyone from the public who wishes to ask questions may do so. When the applicant's case is finished, the public may give testimony for or against the application. The applicant and the board may cross-examine anyone who gives testimony on that front. At the conclusion of the testimony, we will close the hearing. At that time, the board will deliberate and render its decision, but no further testimony may be given or considered. The board may recess to executive session to deliberate. The board may also recess the hearing until a future time and date to render its decision. The board may approve the application with conditions or without conditions, or deny the application. The decision on the requested liquor license transfer will be reduced to writing and mailed to the applicant and any other party of record within 45 days after the hearing is closed. Any party of record may appeal the decision within 30 days after the date of the written decision. So anyone wishing to give testimony, please stand at this time to be sworn in. All right, applicant, proceed with the case. If you want to swear you in.
Hear me all right? Cool. All right. Well, first, thank you to the board members, town solicitor, township staff for facilitating this meeting. My name is Jack Burns. I'm Associate General Counsel for CHR Corp. doing business as Rudders. I'm here to request approval by resolution for the intermunicipal transfer of liquor license R-16097 from York City to Springettsbury Township so that it may be utilized at Rudders number 18 at 725 Arsenal Road. Quick clarification on the license, just so everyone knows what we're addressing here. This license is being transferred from York. It was previously held by the Waterway restaurant that has since ceased doing business. Just for illustration that it's traveling, although it's traveling across municipal lines, it's about 2 miles or so as the crow flies, so it's not traveling very far. And in addition, Rudders 18 was previously licensed by the PLCB. We did have a license there, although we never released it from safekeeping. It was eventually transferred over to Chanceford Township when they had a referendum for sales of retail alcohol. We have since done a renovation of Rudders number 18 to better facilitate both the customer experience and facilitate sales of alcohol. So with that out of the way, just a very brief outline of the presentation I'm going to go through. It's just going to be about our licensure in general, our adherence to the PLCB's RAMP program, as well as our own internal guidelines. A little bit about our safety measures as well, and a brief word on our community involvement. Again, after that, happy to address any questions the board, staff, members of the public may have concerning Rudders operations. So unless there's any opening remarks, I'll go ahead and start. So Rudders, in case anyone's not familiar, is a family-owned chain of convenience stores. We currently have 90 locations over 3 states. Rudders currently operates 69 licensed locations in Pennsylvania that may sell alcohol, in addition to 2 stores in West Virginia that also sell alcohol. In addition, in the next 4 weeks, we will be opening our first store in Virginia that also will be selling alcohol for on and off premises consumption, as well as an additional store in West Virginia that will also sell alcohol for on and off premise consumption. I highlight this because Rudders always contemplates the sale of alcohol when it is permitted by law. It's something that our customers consistently want, and we aim to have uniform offering across all of our stores. So Brief word on licensure in Pennsylvania. We are required to have a restaurant liquor license, although we are a convenience store. The legislature decided not to create a separate class of licensure, so we must avail ourselves to the duties of a restaurant under the liquor code. One of these requirements is to have at least 30 seats for patrons to have. Even at our much larger stores, we are now opening stores with footprints that are around 13,500 square feet. Those are now open over in Cambria County and Northumberland County. We rarely see that many seats full. It is required by law. That is why it is there. This store, store 18, is approximately 2,800 square feet. So although we will be sure to have the 30 seats, they are rarely, if ever, completely filled. And in addition, because this license was made with restaurants in mind, we must also have both the on and off premises consumption of alcohol if requested. However, bit of a word about our operations. Our typical customer is exactly who you think they would be. They come by to get gas, get some food, perhaps they grab a six-pack, a bottle of wine, and they're on their way. So we rarely do see people, especially in these smaller stores, choose to elect on-premises consumption. However, if they do choose to do that, we do have internal policies in place. Especially at stores of this size, we have a house rule where they may only consume up to 25 ounces of alcohol while they choose to be on-premises consuming. Thereafter, if they want to consume more, they'll be asked to leave. And again, if there is any other issues that come up, that is when our own internal policies as well as the ramp guidelines that I get into come into play. So generally about our policies around age-restricted products. At this location and pretty much all of Rudder's locations, we sell, in addition to alcohol, tobacco products and lottery products as well. So we are very used to dealing with age-restricted items. We don't permit any employees under the age of 18 to handle any alcohol products. This includes selling, handling, and stocking. And all team members are expected to comply with this policy and report any noncompliance with their manager or regional manager. And briefly getting into the PLCB's RAMP program. RAMP stands for the Responsible Alcohol Management Program. We aim not only to comply with their requirements, but also become what is called RAMP certified. There are 4 pillars to this that you must complete, the first being owner-manager training. Every single establishment, and including the one here in Springettsbury Township, will have a designated manager. I believe I identified him in the questions that were submitted to you all. It will be Noah Cunningham. He will have owner-manager training through the Liquor Control Board. That includes subjects such as formulations of house policies, applicable to staff and the public, and how to handle various situations they may encounter as an alcohol retailer. Second pillar would be seller-server training. Anyone involved in the selling and serving of alcohol will receive seller-server training. This must be completed within 6 months of hire. The class is conducted by a PLCB-approved instructor, and it teaches various subjects such as detecting fake IDs, identifying signs of visible intoxication, and how to responsibly manage customers. The third pillar would be new employee orientation. We must have an orientation for a new employee within 30 days. We typically have ours done within the first day or 2. And then the fourth would be the signage that we post on the property that everyone is mostly familiar with, identifying signs of visible intoxication, warning not to drink and drive, drink to excess. And again, once a licensee is able to complete all 4 of these pillars, at least 50% of their employees must complete the training. Even though the PLCB in state law only requires 50%, Rudders strives for 100% training for all of our staffs. I say strive only because we have occasional turnover like most entities, and there may be a tiny bit of a lapse when we get someone else onboarded and trained. But we have RAMP certification in all our stores where we sell alcohol. This store will be no exception. Recertification is required every 2 years, both for the manager and for the staff, so they'll be refreshed on all of the topics they initially covered. And moreover, a good way for the public to be able to identify when an entity is RAMP certified and has completed all 4 of those pillars is if they're able to sell wine and the ready-to-drink cocktails to go. In order to do that under state law, you must be RAMP certified, and all of our stores, this one as well as our plan, will be RAMP certified and will sell wine and RTDs to go in addition to beer. And again, that's a word on the LCB's training front. Our own training front, it is our policy, even though it is not required by state law, to check and scan the ID of every single customer that tries to purchase alcohol. This is regardless of age, whether they are known to you, whether they are a family member. It is required. Our system is locked when an alcoholic item is scanned, and it will not unlock until a valid ID is scanned, whether that be a driver's license, passport, military ID, what have you. And that will also be installed here at Store 18 once we are approved by the municipality. In addition, there's a brief word here on safety as well. All our locations, this one no exception, has security cameras both on the interior and the exterior. Our employees, through our internal training, are prepared to handle situations involving suspicious behavior or criminal activity, whether or not it's related to the sale of alcohol. That being said, we rarely see any suspicious behavior or criminal activity related to alcohol sales in our stores. This is regardless of its location. Additionally, we've done our own internal review of incidents, comparing stores that are licensed to sell alcohol and those that are not, and have seen no meaningful difference in suspicious activity or criminal behavior based on whether alcohol is involved or not. Brief word on community involvement as well. Rudders is a pillar, we like to believe, of the York community. We were based here. We have been here since 1747 through the family farm. Rudders, with its affiliated children's charity, supports charitable organizations throughout its geographic footprint. Last year, Rudders Children's Charity, in addition to the Rudders companies, did about $2.1 million in charitable donations to all of the organizations that are operating within our footprint. And I raise this not just to sing the song of Rudders, but to highlight that Rudders has worked very hard to build a positive reputation in the communities in which it chooses to operate, and it simply has too much to lose by handling alcohol in an irresponsible way. With that, rather than just reserving some time for a brief closing statement, I'm happy to take any questions the board or the public may have.
Anyone? Like we're good.
Do a motion to close the record then? I think that's,
Or does his closing comments?
I'll just do a very brief
Yeah.
statement then. So again, I think that through my testimony here today, Rudders has proven to be a responsible alcohol retailer. And that is not only our plan here in Springettsbury Township, but also at all of our 69 currently licensed locations. Today, no substantial evidence was provided that would give the board a reasonable basis to deny the transfer of this license. And as such, we respectfully request that the board approve Rudders' request for an intermunicipal transfer of restaurant liquor license R-16097 to Rudders number 18 at, get the address here. Found that. 725 Arsenal Road. Thank you.
I move to close testimony.
Do we do that before public comment?
I was under the impression that we're doing, yeah, we're gonna, yeah, because no one is on record, so we're gonna close the record and then public comment and then vote.
Okay.
Is there a second for?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Okay, do we have anyone here in attendance from the public who wants to comment specifically on the request to transfer the liquor license? Hearing none, we'll adjourn this meeting. Thank you, everyone. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Springettsbury Township Board of Supervisors. Our first item is if you would please rise and join me in a pledge to the flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did want to first announce we have had no executive session since our last meeting and nothing scheduled for this evening. With that, I'll open up the floor to communication from citizens. If you have anything to comment on, please step to the lectern, state your name and address for the record. Anyone?
am Erin Mishlak. I live at 3382 Dininger Road, York, Pennsylvania. So I live on the side of the road that goes back to Rocky Ridge, and that's where my family and I have lived for 16 years. I'm here tonight to raise a concern over traffic safety on our road, particularly the curve that's near our property. So in the past 18 months alone, there have been 3 serious accidents. One required an ambulance with very serious injuries to 3 children, and then 2 others ended with cars that were actually crashed in our yard. In addition to these accidents, our neighbors at 3385 Dininger Road had their mailbox destroyed repeatedly, so many times that they actually don't even know how many times they've had to put up a new mailbox. And we've had 2 more incidents where cars lost control. One came straight through our yard and driveway. We did report that one to the police. And then another was actually coming towards a glass door that I sit and work behind. The car was coming right towards me. As it hit the driveway, it gained control, and so it was able to keep going, but they just run right through our yard and keep going. So that's been a lot of, and it's really picked up in the past year and a half. We constantly hear tires chirping around the corner, and it really is only the traffic that's leaving the park coming down out towards Mount Zion Hill that has the issue. So had our children been outside during any of these incidents, somebody could have been seriously injured. The one accident, the car crashed, came through our, up a big boulder is in our yard. Obviously, we live on Rocky Ridge, came up over the boulder and down into our flower bed. Drivers typically go about 40 miles per hour, probably faster, even though the speed limit is 25 miles per hour on that road. So it's between the traffic from the park and from Hewters, there's just a lot of people traveling on that road that don't know it. And it's really not about property damage at all. We're not worried about our yard, but we just want to keep the yard safe for both us and our neighbors. So I sent a message to the Director of Public Works, and then the Chief of Police has responded. They are conducting a traffic study on Dininger Road right now. So there are 2 signs, but they're not near the curve. They're down from the curve, unfortunately, instead of coming from the park and hitting the other curve. I still think they'll see that people are speeding on the road. So I've asked for those signs to be there and then also moved up further. But all I'm really asking for is a little bit more signage, you know, a sign that blinks and says it's 25, you're going 40, or some signage on the road. Speed humps probably don't make sense because there's probably not enough traffic on that road, so I understand that. But there could just be a couple things done that I think would really help slow people down just a little bit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I did have one question. What was your house number again?
I'm 3382.
3382.
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yep. And I'm sorry, how does this work? Do I just give my comments?
Well, the
and
people in the
that's it?
room that need to hear that are here in the room and heard it, so.
Okay, perfect.
I'm sure they'll take a look at that. And as you mentioned, there is a study going on right now to
Yes.
determine the speeds up there, which many times dictates what actions, if any, are taken.
Okay.
I do have another question. Is there any particular day that you're seeing a lot of these
Oh,
instances?
it's worse on the weekends, for sure.
On the weekends,
Yes,
of course.
it's absolute. I mean, I guess that's not really fair to say because one accident happened on the weekend and one happened during the week, but they were both at the park. And they leave the park and they just come down a little bit too fast. So, and the police have been great. They've dealt with, our phone calls when we call in and the accidents when they happen. They've been great, but they can't stop them from happening. So, okay.
Thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
Anyone else this evening? Okay, we'll move on to our engineering reports, starting with Buchard Horn.
Good evening, gentlemen. Just one quick update. The East York Pump Station upgrade project is out to bid right now, and we will have a results and recommendations for you in November.
Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Civil engineering, First Capital.
I don't really have any additional updates. I want to thank Supervisor Cox for, I did attend a pretty interesting Central Penn presentation on industrial development, residential development, and commercial development, and provided that as part of my report. And the question I had in my mind that Supervisor Cox answered for me is, how come the Park City Mall is doing so well and we have vacancy rates in the Galleria? And he was able to explain that to me. So,
John.
thank you. Any questions on my report?
Looks like we don't. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to our consent agenda items, we have 4 items on the agenda. Are there any items any board members would like to have removed?
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the consent agenda items A through D.
Second.
Motion a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Carries unanimous. Bids, proposals, contracts. We have our annual SPCA Animal Care Housing Agreement for 2026 in front of us for approval. Mark, anything you want to add to what was in your written report?
No, that it's been a good relationship, and the increase from 2025 to 2026 is nominal.
But no additional provision for feral cats.
No.
Mr. Chairman, I would move for authorization to execute 2026 SPCA Animal Care and Housing Agreement in an amount not to exceed $23,006.
Second.
Motion a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Carries unanimous. Next up, we have a request to approve hiring of a new auditing service, and I'm not going to take a shot at pronouncing the name. Mark, I'll let you handle that one.
Mr. Vice Chair, Jamie Reed and I interviewed 6 auditing firms. 4 of those submitted proposals to us, and it is Zelenkowski Axelrod provided the best price, and along with that also had very positive feedback from their references. And it is a decrease in price from our current auditing firm. So I recommend approval.
Jamie, I have a question for you. Have you had any experience with this firm before?
Hi. No, I haven't had any direct relationship with this firm, but we have had some neighboring municipalities that work with them, and they've said really good positive things. A couple in York County have mentioned that they're great to work with. They meet deadlines. They get back to you the next day. So very positive. And their pricing too, we thought was really good. Some of these firms might come in low and then increase the pricing, right away, just to adjust different things. But right now, we're confident that the pricing's good and they're not gonna, snowball us later with higher pricing.
Okay, thank you.
I guess, Jamie, my only question was, do they represent townships of similar size to Springettsbury
Yeah.
in York County?
Yes, yeah. When we interview them, I think it's 95% of their business is all municipalities.
Never
So,
mind.
yeah.
Thank you.
Anyone care to make a motion?
Well, I guess one item to discuss, we do have, are these optional within the, so are we committing to a 3 years if we elect the options, or are we just approving a contract that allows us to exercise those options at a later time?
You're approving a contract allowing the options
Okay.
later. So the 2025 audit would be guaranteed. The future would be optional.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, I move the authorization to execute proposal to provide professional auditing services with Zelenkowski Axelrod LLC for the year ending December 31, 2025, and a contract with the option years of December 31, December 26, and December 31, 2027, in the amounts of $38,000 for 2025, the option of $39,520 for 2026 option, and $41,000 for the 2027 option.
Second.
Motion a second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Approved unanimous. Subdivisions and land development. We have an item on here to discuss the sketch plan for a connector road for the Brook Valley Road preliminary subdivision plan.
Mr. Chairman, the development at Druck Valley was reviewed at one of the recent supervisors meeting, and they are here to present an option to try to mitigate some of the concerns the board may have had at the last meeting. So with that, I'll introduce Montrose Environmental, and they'll walk you through what changes they are proposing. Randall and I did have a meeting with them, a virtual meeting, to discuss these changes. They submitted a sketch plan and are here to discuss the sketch plan itself.
Okay, do we have a sketch plan up for the screen? Okay. Just to start, my client asked me to pass out a list of the approvals for the project, just for your review.
Thank you.
We just wanted to highlight the fact, as we said at the last meeting, this project has been in the township for a long time. We've been working really hard on getting all the permits, approvals, studies, everything's done, and just my client thought it would be a good idea to pass out the list so you just have a good appreciation for where we are. I thought the plan was going to be on the screen, so I'm going to get a board that will hopefully help us with our discussion.
Let's not have it, no.
Can we throw one of these out?
I don't, no, because it has to be on that computer.
Which one, Angels?
Yeah, we have it in our package. I've seen it, yeah, I've seen it before. There's another one. I apologize for the people. Is there a way to show this so that the people that are not here can see this?
I think we got a copy of it
The
in our,
board has it in, so the board members can see it
Board
on
members
their
do have it.
computer.
They do have a copy of it?
Yeah, we have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, at the last meeting, we started off the meeting working through waivers that we're seeking approval for. As you recall, it wasn't that long ago, there was a concern about our request for a waiver for exceeding the cul-de-sac length. And one of the suggestions was to provide a loop along the southern part of the property that would connect the east side with the west side. So if there was an emergency on the upper part of the project, someone on the west side could easily go from an emergency access drive to the east. And if there's an emergency on the east side, there could be an easy access to the west. So right now, anyone that is living on the east side of the development and is basically, they would work their way toward Druck Valley Road using the normal roadway systems. On the west side, the same thing. We expect that people would generally work through the development and then end up at Druck Valley. So we don't see there's a real strong reason for people to drive back and forth on the southern part of this property to go from the west side to the east side or vice versa. So we're proposing an emergency access drive. We ran this by Randall and John, and there was positive review of that. We also ran it by the fire marshal, and he agreed that he had was supportive of the emergency access drive. He suggested a Knox box and a chain to be placed on both sides, so there's not going to be any traffic, but the fire department could easily access it. Thank you. So
so this plan does show the emergency access drive. I don't have a clicker, but here it is here. Okay. Okay. So good. This one shows a little closer up. So we not only did a horizontal alignment of what this, would look like, we actually did a detailed design. We did a truck turning analysis for emergency vehicle, their largest vehicle. We also did analysis of snowplow, so that HOA will have access to the Knox box. They'll be able to do the snow removal, so there'll always be, free and clear in case there is an emergency. The reason this is important, by adding this emergency access, it creates a large loop through the entire development. We still have the smaller sub-loops that we talked about last time. But by placing this emergency access, we will not need to ask for a waiver for cul-de-sac length. So with this big, large exterior loop, every one of the 3 cul-de-sacs are all less than 600 feet. So this addresses the major concern that we had at the last meeting that we're at. And we're not seeking any approval tonight except just positive support from the board. If this is the right way to go, we would like to incorporate this into our plan. As you saw in the last plan, all the engineering is basically done. We're going to have to add a small detention basin to compensate for the additional impervious. And our plan is to submit that for John's detailed review. And hopefully with that in place, then we're moving forward positively and hopefully be before you before long. So again, we're not looking for much more from the board except positive feedback, hopefully, that we're on the right track and we're in a position where we can finalize this and get it back into the township. So does the township supervisors have any feedback one way or the other? Or can you give us some support that we heard your concern and we have come up with a plan that addresses it?
If no one else is going to start, I will. A narrow chained off Knox box loop is not a loop. And to call those cul-de-sacs within 600 feet of the entrance is ridiculous.
What?
I guess let me see if you can go through this exercise. Pick a cul-de-sac down there at the bottom of the page. Just
Okay.
whichever one you want.
The one on the far right on the east side? Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Take that line from that cul-de-sac up through the development to the main highway. How far is that?
I think if you went from that all the way to the front, I think John's letter said it was 2,000 feet.
It's not 600 feet.
No, but
but how does adding a connector road here shorten the length of the cul-de-sac from that point?
Well, the total cul-de-sac length is from a single intersection. So the purpose of the cul-de-sac length is so that if you have, an emergency, as we talked about at the last meeting, if you only have one route all the way through and no other way for people to get around, then that's where basically you would say that the total cul-de-sac length would be all the way to Druck Valley Road. If you create a full loop through the neighborhood, then the cul-de-sac starts at the intersection. The definition of cul-de-sac is from an intersection to the bulb of the cul-de-sac. So the intersection would be the intersection with the emergency access drive to that cul-de-sac. So from that intersection to the bulb of the cul-de-sac is less than 600 feet.
So this plan solves the problem that if there is an accident there's the one road that comes into the development, and then it breaks off. So if there's a situation there, someone below that point can get out because we have a second exit.
Exactly.
Show me how we do that. If there is a blockage at that junction, and I don't know if we have
Right.
pointers.
Well, show me a minute. Okay.
Yeah.
So at the last meeting, how to get it? It went to the.
Press and hold.
How do I get it to go to the other plan, the overall plan? Okay. So at the last meeting, we talked about if there was a fire at this unit right here, what would happen for all the rest of the property owners that were on the bottom part of the west side here.
Okay.
What the emergency access drive does, the fire company has the road shut down. They would open up the emergency access road. Anyone needing to get out of the development would go around the emergency access road and would be able to easily get out of the development now. Same thing on the east side. If there was an obstruction in this area here, they could open up the emergency access drive. Anyone wanting to leave the development would go through here and be able to get out to Druck Valley Road. So the emergency concern is addressed by making this loop.
What if the congestion is at the main intersection coming on the entrance road from the street, where it hits the top of the loop? Do you know what I mean? I don't have the streets in front of me. Yeah,
So describe it again?
bring your, straight down,
Yeah.
that intersection, right there. What if
Yes.
that's the holdup? Then how does the east and west get out? Because even though they can connect with each other, they ultimately hit that block.
Well, if there was a block there, one of those mini loops that we talked about, we have an emergency access drive that is the existing radio road, and they would be able to come out and get out to Druck Valley Road that way. So that's part of, these mini loops that we talked about. So if that's obstructed there, the people in the west would be able to come around like this, and the people in the east would be able to come around and go that emergency access. That's the reason we have that emergency access drive there.
Is there some reason it can't be a secondary entrance?
Yes, PennDOT will not allow a secondary exit.
So do you have a map or a drawing that shows Radio Road as a street in this development for the purposes of that second exit?
Yes, our plans literally have designed this as the emergency access. There's a Knox box. We coordinated this with the fire marshal. It is already, approved by the fire marshal. There's an understanding that if there was an emergency and a need to open up this emergency access drive, it's already been taken care of. So it's an existing road right now, and that we're just going to put a chain across it, and it would only be used as an emergency. If there's no emergency, everyone can easily just go out our proposed roads out to Druck Valley.
Are there existing properties on the east
I'll-
side
I'll,
of the Radio Road?
I'll reiterate what I said at the last meeting. There have been other developments, including the one behind the York County building, that it was proposed to put a Knox box on the far end of that to allow the second access point so that it was not a longer than 600-foot cul-de-sac, and that was turned down. That Knox box isn't something that is free access for the residents there to be able to get around obstructions to get out of their development. So you are saying that every single time that there is a potential emergency there, there's going to be somebody from the fire department that's going to be there to unlock all of that and let everybody get out another way?
No, I would say in most cases, there's going to be no need for the emergency access drive. It would be a very extreme case where you would need to have an emergency access utilized. And if that was the case, then there is definitely a way for people to get around if there is an emergency.
That's a 12-foot wide drive now.
It's about a 20-foot drive, yeah. The Radio Road, I believe.
No, the connector, the new connector.
The new connector road, we're showing a 12-foot
12-foot
emergency
wide.
access
Is there
drive
any
paved.
reason that can't be a full-blown connecting road? Going from one side to, a 24-foot wide street and not be an emergency exit? If you already have an easement on it, is the owner willing to expand it to a full-blown street?
We could,
I'm
Yeah.
just asking a question.
listen, we would prefer it not to be a full-blown street. We don't think there's a need for people to be circulating along the west, from east to west on the southern side there.
I was just trying
But I will say that if,
to find a solution to the lockbox and the knockbox.
if that is what if turning that into a 26-foot drive is what it takes for us to get support from the board and move forward, that clearly would be an intersection, and you could definitely make a stronger argument that that cul-de-sac is less than 600 feet from an intersection. It would create a more easily, maneuvered full interior loop around the development. If that gets us from point A to point B, I'm sure we would be able to agree to that.
I don't know, I need more clarification on this 600-foot restriction on cul-de-sacs. If it's from the entrance from this highway, that's
No,
one thing.
if
From
you
the
look at the
street, if it's-
definition of cul-de-sac in your ordinance, it says it's 600 feet from an intersection to a cul-de-sac bulb.
Okay,
The intersection on the one here that we're talking about, if the intersection is there, the distance from that intersection to that bulb is less than 600 feet.
okay.
And the same thing with the one over here, from that intersection down to that cul-de-sac is less than 600 feet. The other one up here is less than 600 feet here. So as we said, we spent a lot of time on this development. Putting a 26-foot drive, if that is going to get us here, we're willing to do it. Right, no Knox box. It would be a open, just a
understand.
standard open street.
That-
The definition of cul-de-sac in our ordinance is a street with a single common ingress and egress ending with a circular paved turnaround. That's the definition of cul-de-sac in our definitions. And I know that we limit the length of a cul-de-sac to be not more than 600 feet.
From an intersection.
Yep.
It appears there are like half a dozen houses on each cul-de-sac. What's the average frontage of those lots, do you know? The 80-foot,
Yeah,
100-foot?
approximately, yeah.
I don't know. Well,
Yeah, definitely is not many units on a cul-de-sac, and that's part of the reason for that
no, I'm
limitation.
just asking what the frontage is on the lot.
Yeah.
If it's 100 feet, then it's 600 feet to the cul-de-sac. If it's 80
Yeah, we already
feet-
measured it.
if
It
it's
definitely
80
is
feet, then
less
it's
than 600
480.
feet to the cul-de-sac.
John, what's the requirement for the distance of the second entrance from the first entrance?
The, let me review that.
The distance from what entrance to what entrance, sorry?
There's only
From-
one primary entrance.
Yeah,
Permanent, I just want to, again, there's a section in our ordinance, 28941K 6. Permanent loop streets or cul-de-sacs shall not exceed a centerline distance of 600 feet in length as measured from the centerline intersection of the 3rd Street to the center of the cul-de-sac turnaround of the most distant point of the loop street centerline. So I'm not so certain that the length of cul-de-sac distance requirement goes away with the connecting road. That's one. And then, of course, we define a cul-de-sac as a street with a single common ingress and egress ending in a circular paved turnaround. So although the connecting road may permit some flows in the emergency, what I just read about the cul-de-sac length, I'm not so certain that you would measure that from Druck Valley to the most distant point where that cul-de-sac or dead end is. That those would still be, I believe, appropriate. That you would need waivers for that distance.
It'd be over 600 feet.
Yes.
I have to, let's please talk about that, because there are many developments, I'm sure in this township and throughout, where you have circulation roads and you have cul-de-sacs branching off from circulation roads.
Which ones?
I don't know anyone specifically, but most, single-family developments, larger single-family developments, you have a circulation road in the development, and then at certain places, you have small cul-de-sacs coming off. And from the definition that I just heard, I don't see why that is not saying that cul-de-sac would be measured from the intersection. Basically, we're creating an intersection that is creating this loop, and you have a small little cul-de-sac that branches off from that. I don't understand why that's not clear.
You're playing games with reason.
What, excuse me?
I for one, would like to see evidence presented to about what you're claiming in our township, for one. But more importantly, from what I'm looking at now, I still cannot interpret that entire left-hand area with about 25 or 30 houses. That looks to me to be a cul-de-sac according to our definition, and it definitely looks to me to be a cul-de-sac according to the spirit of why our ordinance regulates cul-de-sacs. And I don't think this access road makes any difference at all.
Yes. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ray Rice. I'm a member of the partnership that's the applicant tonight before you. And I've been in this business now 40 years. And I always try to look at things from both sides of the fence. We have been at this approval now for 2 years. We cleared a lot of milestones. We appeared at the last meeting. This concern was raised about safety, movements, etc. We went out, we looked at what the solution was with respect to what our interpretation of the ordinance was. I happen to think that our engineering's interpretation is in fact correct. But in the entire time we've been through this process, and we have had the opportunity to engage with your professionals, it's a little bit disingenuous to show up at the meetings and hear now that the professionals' interpretation in terms of where the length of the cul-de-sac is being measured. Never heard of this before. Which, objectively, step in our shoes, seems a little bit unfair. We presented the emergency circumstance. We're willing to meet the 26-foot wide. The Knox box will go away. And I respectfully, I've probably over the years had on jobs no less than 60 knock boxes for a variety of circumstances. And that key, and who has that key? It would be unusual to me, I don't know your protocol here, unexceptionally, the fire department has it, the emergency services, ambulance, hazmat, and your police department. They all have the key. From this job right here, relative to where that stuff is based, for them to get up there, it's minutes. We're not talking a 15-minute event. We're not talking a 20-minute event. They're going to be able to be there. They're going to be able to respond. So I'm asking, and I'm listening to what you're saying, but we're going out. We've spent a huge amount of money designing this job, permitting this job, and now we're hearing tonight the interpretation of what constitutes the length of the cul-de-sac is different than, I read these codes all the time. It looks pretty clear to me. And I'm just asking for a fair, even-handed approach, because we showed up here tonight based on the last meeting and what we heard, the measure of length of cul-de-sac and where it would start. And now I'm hearing that, in fact, the whole length measurement is totally a different standard, potentially.
So I'm sorry that you feel that way. I heard our engineer read the ordinance, and to me, it does not sound like we're being disingenuous. It sounds like you're being disingenuous. So tonight is the first time that I heard that Radio Road actually has a Knox box on that too. So that is not a free flow. So I'm at a loss to understand why you think you can come in here and tell us that we need to give you, because you've had 40 years of experience doing this, something that our ordinance does not allow. And I think it's a clear interpretation from what our engineer read tonight. I don't think you understood the intent of what we were asking last time. I don't see two entrances at the road. I don't see a full circulation. And the definition that our engineer read to you tells me that on the left-hand side, if you come in that entrance road to that first intersection from, actually, I don't see any way around with the knockbox on Radio Road that you're anywhere less than that intersection from Druck Valley Road to the furthest cul-de-sac point, which I think is close to 2,000 feet. So when you have a major storm event and you have trees down all along the area here and have that road entrance blocked off, you have no way, with emergency vehicles that are probably servicing all kinds of other issues in the township, to get in here in any reasonable time to unlock knock boxes so people can get out.
We originally had two entrances. One of the entrances was going out that 50-foot easement right here. The original sketch plan for the project showed an entrance going out there instead of the cul-de-sac that is truncated. It's important to understand that when we had our scoping meeting with PennDOT, and John was at that meeting, the PennDOT did not allow there to be two entrances from this development, and basically dictated to us that we would be able to have the one entrance where we show it, which has the best sight distance, and they wanted to minimize Radio Road and turn it into emergency access. So PennDOT is dictating what we can have here. And like I said, the emergency access, the reason for the emergency access is to provide a secondary emergency access if there is an emergency. That's the definition of an emergency access. And if there is an emergency, it's opened up and people can freely get through.
So they are on the record of prohibiting a second entrance?
They are on records viewing our first proposal of 2 entrances and dictating that we could only have 1.
Did they give you an explanation? Why?
Yes, they said that they didn't want 2 roads. They didn't think the site distance was proper for that one. And they basically were dictating that we have the 1 entrance road.
Wait, basically
So they
dictating,
didn't think the turn
basically
radius coming out
dictating,
of
or
that
you have a
entrance
letter
was
from them
sufficient?
denying an access.
We had a scoping meeting with PennDOT where it was clearly discussed, and that was the direction that was given. We can provide the board with, a memo that clarifies that, or get something clarification from PennDOT confirming that if that's important.
So I'd like to hear directly from PennDOT contradicting our cul-de-sac ordinance and why they think that we don't need 2 means of ingress egress. I mean, you're saying basically they dictated after you said they dictated.
Absolutely.
So-
We had 2 entrances. They said that cannot happen. It has to be 1 entrance with 1 emergency access, flat out.
I'm at a loss to understand how that interpretation from PennDOT impacts us. Because PennDOT only
Right.
cared about PennDOT roads, and we care about PennDOT roads, but we care more about development in Springettsbury Township. And the fact that PennDOT won't give you a second entrance does not mean that we have to do whatever else you ask for.
Yeah, quote unquote, can exceed the line.
So that you understand, the biggest concern that we have are the safety of the residents that would be in this development.
Understood.
That's it.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we're taking the position that we're taking. It's not that we are against your development, not that we don't want this to happen, but we're not convinced that the cul-de-sac situation and the ordinance are something, if we're overruling our own ordinance in order to approve this project, we'd be making a big mistake.
I'm frankly, and excuse me, Mr. Chairman, if you took what I said offense, I still do not understand what the interpretation of the cul-de-sac length is, because, for instance, even if we were miraculously to get this secondary entrance approved, that job, as you went in, when we talk about how you're measuring the cul-de-sac, if I understand it now, the left-hand side of the project would never be compliant to what you're saying.
That's still a challenge. We're essentially running the cul-de-sac from Drug Valley Road.
So that's
Yeah.
what I'm hearing now.
You said before that if you ran that road across there at 26 feet and took the knockbox off, then you would have an internal loop
Correct.
Correct.
that would allow free access out of both exits. And they would be separated by enough space that you would not have a single choke point.
We were saying if, and we, at the last meeting, we talked about the importance of having a connector road. But if we had a 26-foot wide connector road from the intersection on the west going over to the east, basically, if there was any kind of an emergency, the people can circulate around and get out to Druck Valley Road. There isn't one lot that couldn't safely get out to Druck Valley
You
Road.
said that there's a knockbox on Radio Road.
Correct.
Yes. And the Knox box limits people from coming in that emergency access, but provides a second way for emergency vehicles to get in if needed. But Radio Road is an open road. The people on the left-hand side, if needed, could go down Radio Road and then turn left at that little connector which is right here, and then just go out. And that Knox box never has to be opened. Basically, all this traffic would be able to easily just drive on this road that's out there now, make a left, and go out the Drug Valley Road. And you know, if there was an obstruction over here, all of these people could easily just go out there. If there's a need for them to go along this new road here, they can get around. I mean, it's providing a safe alternative route by creating that whole internal loop. And that's why I understand the reason for creating the connection on the south side. We're willing to do it. It makes sense to us. And I think it really does solve the concern. And I don't believe that it requires us to seek a waiver at this time.
Disagree.
So, do you have any more detail or blow-up of that Radio Road entrance with the knockbox presently? Is there another plan sheet? I guess we don't have them.
Is there a way to zoom in on the upper right-hand corner?
See, I'm looking at the satellite and the way radio comes in, and I'm not sure exactly where this fits.
I'm sorry, can you ask the question
So
again?
I'm looking at the satellite view of Radio Road right now. So I see radio is at Drug Valley. It comes in and kind of radiates.
Yeah,
You know,
I can draw.
I don't want.
It goes right like this, and then it comes through here, and it turns and goes up to the radio station. That's
Well, see, that's it. Radio Road in my map never turns after that. It comes in and goes straight, kind of like a southeast vector.
right. So it actually, what it does, it actually comes off of Drug Valley Road. It runs along these houses right here, and then comes and goes this way.
Well, that's Hay Meadow.
I don't know that has a different name there, but I think it's
So
all-
it comes in and then goes straight to another private property developer or a private property owner.
No, it doesn't. It actually, Radio Road is 100% on our property, and it runs on our property along through here. Those people have an access easement that gives them right of access to Radio Road, and it continues and it goes down this way here. So the way we have designed this, we have a proposed road that runs along here, and then there's an intersection where, if needed, people could just drive along that entrance road and go and get out.
You wouldn't happen to have a plan that overlays this over a satellite, would you? Satellite image?
I do. I just happen to have one right here.
All right, so here's radio. It comes down here.
It goes like this and then turns and runs this.
Yeah, that's not radio. That's Hay Meadow.
I didn't know that had a different name,
Yeah,
but
all
that's what happens.
And that's the radio complex right there.
Yeah, so that'll all be maintained.
So then you have this access, this is a public street, not a knockbox. Because this is Radio Road. These property owners and these property owners, that's a public through street, not a
Well,
knockbox.
we're proposing signage to keep people from driving on that road, you know, so it's gonna have signage that has no access. And basically, yeah, these people would be able to just come and it provides a safer way for them to get out the Drug Valley Road, all the property owners.
For these separate independent property owners.
Yeah,
Okay.
and for all these people. They could now come out to here and go and exit at a safer location. That's a benefit of this development.
This is the 2002 approved subdivision plan that created Radio Road. There's a drainage easement, and then Radio Radio Road, as pointed out, goes up along the houses, but Radio Road continues straight.
All the way to here. Yeah, this is all
And
radio.
then there's a secondary road that goes back to the Arc and to the electric supply place.
So your plan calls for it to leverage this land, which is part of your plan. I see how it all fits now relative to this.
Okay.
And then you're bumping up against Strawberry Fields here with this part of the project,
Correct.
Right.
of which there's no way to get to that exit.
Correct.
So this house would exit here, come up this road, and then go into your development? and
Exactly
come out
right.
here?
Exactly right.
So this existing radio is going to be behind these homes.
And the knockbox would be here?
The Knox box is going to be right
Oh,
here.
would be-
There's going to be signage restricting people from coming down here.
Wait, you say the Knox box?
Knox box is at the entrance, far enough in so that a vehicle can come in and unlock it and then continue.
So these people over here would exit onto your street and come here?
Exactly.
That's Radio Road?
Yep. They'll continue to just come out onto Radio Road. We put this connector road here that allows them to
that
go
allows
in
them to
and go
get
out
out.
to at a safe location.
Yeah.
It's really unsafe right now coming out there.
We're just out of curiosity, where was the entrance that PennDOT didn't want you to?
Through this 50, through that 50-foot easement.
Oh, that's no.
And they didn't like that because the turning radius up here or the
Well,
site?
They just said they wanted a site location here, for safe site distance looking both directions.
So I hear PennDOT safety concerns.
I'm not really understanding any of this conversation that's going on, and I'm not seeing anything that anybody's pointing out.
Yeah, unfortunately, Mr. Chairman, they do have an interesting map that shows how active Radio Road still is in this development. I wish we could see that as an exhibit for everyone to see. There are some interesting, I think, some possibilities, but
So I'm also still interested, I'm pretty sure that in that development over there on Memory Lane Extended, John, the one over near the York County building, that development proposal back there didn't have enough separation between entrances to that development to allow that to happen. Do you remember that?
I do recall that, and I know you had asked, and if I could have my ordinance back, you had asked, what's the minimum distance between entrances?
Because even with Radio Road, you have an intersection internally that is only one house width apart to the Radio Road entrance to that development also. And I'm not sure that that meets the standard. I mean, this whole thing looks like a single entrance to a huge development. If you go back to PennDOT and push the issue with getting that that exit out the other end and had Radio Road as your main means of ingress and egress on the east side, you would have two accesses to that development with that internal loop of that, you said you're going to make it 26 feet wide that connects the southernmost end of that whole development internally.
Yeah.
You would have your circulation. Without it, I don't know that you do.
Well, Radio Road right now is one of the most unsafe intersections from a sight distance standpoint that I've seen. It's a very, very dangerous trying to make a left out of there. And I don't think it would be good planning at all to have an entrance going out there. The entrance location is very good right now. It actually is very good sight distance, meets PennDOT's requirements. And you know, by having the emergency access drive, that gives you the release point that we've already talked about at length here.
Disagree. Go back to PennDOT and push that other ingress egress point to the west. I don't see how you have the means of ingress egress outside of a single point, and you really have a huge development that's blocked in with one way in and out.
We really are at an impasse. If you know, we have a property, we have the right to develop it, and if PennDOT won't grant a PennDOT highway occupancy permit, we're really at a legal issue at that point, not being able to develop a property based on two different people telling us two different things. I think it's, you know, I've said it a couple times now, so I feel pretty strongly that putting that emergency access and having the free access really does, you know, make it not just a single access. People under normal conditions can easily come into the development, circulate around, safely get around. If there is some kind of emergency in that upper portion of the development, that's been accounted for with the emergency access.
Well, I think we need to be clear what we're doing here tonight. We are having a friendly conversation to try to give guidance
Yes.
to someone who's made an application. And beyond that, you know, we don't design developments. Other people design developments and they put plans in front of us and we react to those plans. Mm-hmm. And you put a plan in front of us and we reacted to it previously. And, you know, I don't think you can leave this meeting saying that, you know, if we add this 26-foot access road that we never thought to put in there before, that then Springettsbury Township's going to be fine with everything. But you don't know that until you present it, I guess. And
Yeah,
that's.
I heard from the meeting, you know, direction that if we, you know, why couldn't we put a road through there? And if we did that, that seemed to be the direction that I heard, you know, that the board was looking for. So that's why we pursued it. We didn't just look at it in two dimensions. We looked at it in detail and did profiles and designed it properly. So that's why we're a little surprised tonight, because I felt like we had that direction at the last meeting.
Well, you came back to us with a 12-foot wide dirt road with a knockbox.
It's not a dirt road. It was a fully paved road. But listen, we're sufficiently able to do a 26-foot road, and I'm hearing that is important for the board, and we certainly can do that.
So, John, find that that requirement for the two access points and how far they have to be separated for us, please.
I have it. That would be.
You might not be able to do that right now tonight, but that's important. The first time that I knew, I mean, it was just tonight that I found out that there was Knox box on Radio Road and that was not free access. So I don't see that your problem has gone away.
And for the record,
But I think you do fully understand what the concerns of the board are now. So.
Sure, I do, but if there wasn't this connector road here, I mean, there's not a reason for people to have to go out that way. I mean, certainly they can come all
Until
the way
there is.
Radio Road and provide access. The only place where you would need, if there was some emergency, to utilize that Knox box is if there was an obstruction right in this area here. Any other obstruction anywhere else, the traffic could come along Radio Road, make a left and go out. So we've even taken consideration for an obstruction that happens here. If that were to happen, then basically the fire company could open it up. But the chances of, there being an obstruction, right there is really very, very small. And in most cases, any other obstruction, you have a secondary way of getting in and around. So that makes sense to me.
Well, the only thing I'll add to that is my personal perspective. I mean, you've gotten some good feedback from the board members tonight. I know from my perspective from the last time you were here and presented, the big concern I had, which, was the safety of getting out in the event of emergency, the bottleneck.
Right.
And from my perspective, with the 26-foot paved road, that would, again, my opinion, not reviewed by engineering yet, but from my opinion, that seems like that would alleviate that problem.
Thank you. Any other board members to share your thoughts that you haven't, anything above what's been shared already?
Anyone else have any feedback at this point?
Ray
Nope.
Rice speaking again. So I'm listening to everything you said. I'm not clear what we can do. We'll go back to PennDOT and get what you requested regarding the entrance. I would ask one thing is if that Flagstaff that goes out to Dark Valley right now, if for some reason PennDOT said, hey, we can make that an emergency access also with the knockbox situation, is that a solution? Because then, just to be clear, you have the existing Radio Road, you would have the new road that would go in, and then you would have this potentially second or third entrance that could be for emergency purposes. Because we don't dictate what PennDOT agrees to, they have their standards. And what Dan said respect to Druck Valley right now, anybody going down that road today, if you're planning on going to the left, you really got to be on your game. Because from that intersection as you proceed, what is that, Dan, to the east? Going up the hill there? Yes, to the east. Yeah, so the east, the hill literally just jumps. There's no even mild transition. It just goes right up. So you got to really rely, and I heard the woman that was speaking before about this other road and that circumstance, but this one right here, I mean, I'm telling you, if you're not familiar with it, go up there. And so if PennDOT would agree to that, maybe, I don't know if they will or wouldn't, but that would seem like a pretty good solution at the end of the day. So we would have achieved the loop with the 26-foot wide road that would connect the two different sides. Going to be a regular public road. It's going to be maintained. You have the existing Radio Road, and you can certainly get down there, and as you come off of Druck Valley, that road to the left, so that there's movement there, and then this first cul-de-sac as you come in that goes to the right, if there was an emergency point there where you could come in off of Druck Valley, that seems like a pretty good solution to me.
In my professional opinion, streets with Knox box on is impractical to expect that emergency services is going to unlock roadways that they don't need to get to access the situation. So if they're responding to a situation, they're going to be at that situation. not worried about going somewhere else on that parcel to unlock gates to let people through. That's my opinion. And then aside from emergency services, I was on a roadway today where a moving truck was, I assume, backing into somebody's driveway, broke down, had the street completely closed down. And I was able to get out because I backed up and went around and got out of the development. But I think we need to look at it further than just emergency services.
Well, okay, so I'm even a little bit more confused now, and I apologize. So what you just said is that if an emergency response was here, they're gonna only be looking to use the road that would come in off of Druck Valley, the new road, if I understand you right. So what we have been told, there's a circumstance for whatever reason that's not utilized now. Could be the moving circumstance you just said. Isn't that why you have these emergency roads? What would be the other reason? Because the emergency ingress and egress points are there for events like this. So we would now have the radio road, and if PennDOT would agree to this other circumstance, we have a second one.
Yeah, but that, I think what was mentioned earlier, those roadways would be open 24/7. They wouldn't be restricted by a Knox box.
I didn't hear that said. What I heard is that we had to have circulation, which we believe we did with dragging this brand-new road from the east to the west side. So we accomplished that. It's going to be a public road. We went through and did the flow calculations on the movements. And and I'm just thinking out loud here, but if I was to listen to what you said, there'd be no point in ever approving any emergency ingress and egress road in the town.
So if you had your main entrance that you're proposing now,
Right.
and then the other one that PennDOT says they won't allow,
Correct.
and both of those would be fully operational at all times.
But respectfully, what I'm telling you is they told us they wouldn't agree to that. We tried to get 2 public ingresses and egresses, and they said no. So what I'm proposing is a solution where we go back to them. I don't even know the probability of it, but we make that staff that goes out to Druck Valley, the approach to PennDOT would be, we need this, here's why we need it, can we have an emergency ingress and egress? So what that accomplishes very simply, because they're concerned about movements out of these intersections, okay? By the way, the one we're talking about with the staff, just so you're clear, that starts to get very close to Mount Zion Road, which they're also going to be looking at that. So the 2 public accesses are a non-starter. We already know that. What I'm talking about right now is a solution where you have the primary entrance, you have the radio road entrance, and then you have this potential entrance that would be right here. That, to me, sounds like a solution.
Can I add something?
If someone
Certainly.
opens the gates.
Yeah, but
Maybe you need to push PennDOT as hard as you're trying to push us tonight and get them to open up that westbound access.
Mark, I think I have a good answer to your question. Any obstruction that would happen anywhere in this development, there's a way for people to get, if we put that loop in, there's a way for people to get up and around that development. The only place, without having to open the Knox box over by Radio Road at Druck Valley, any place on the development. You want to select one where you don't think that's the case? I believe at any place where you would have an obstruction, you could get out of the development without having to open the Knox box. The only place that potentially that wouldn't be the case is if you had an obstruction here, and then certainly if you had an obstruction there, the fire people would see the importance of opening the Knox box. So they would be right there. They wouldn't be far out in the development. They'd be right there, and that would be the only place where they would need to open it up to allow access to leave the site. So I think that.
Respectfully disagree. If you come down a little bit further to that first intersection inside the development, go right there.
Yeah.
that intersection and the one just to the east at Radio Road, that distance between the two, I don't believe qualifies as two entrances. So you're assuming that the only problems can be like emergency services involved.
No, I would,
You just heard Mark talk about a truck that broke down in the middle of the road.
right, but if the.
What about a storm that comes through and blows down a couple of trees across the area here?
Right, so.
What about, I don't know what else. I mean, you're assuming that it's only one type of emergency and that there's gonna be a fire truck there. And somebody's just gonna go around and open up all of the Knox boxes and everybody's free to flow.
No, I'm.
I don't think that that's the intent.
Yeah, well, and that is probably a good reason for having a 26-foot road as opposed to the emergency access. But if there was an obstruction right at that intersection, any of these people on the west side, they obviously couldn't go there because it's obstructed. They could go down the 26-foot road, come here, and then easily just go out to this road and,
Okay,
and
you're
go out the
You're
entrance.
purposefully not understanding what I'm saying. I think you've heard us. I think you understand what our concerns are. This was for the purposes of a discussion tonight. We've had the discussion. I don't believe that there's anything to vote on. So we can argue this the rest of the evening, and it isn't going to change what you've already heard and what we've already heard.
Mr. Chairman, this is Ray Rice again. So the existing condition that's there today with respect to Radio Road, what would you classify that in regards to the fact that it's a single point entrance? The width is not even up to standard relative to the roadways we're talking about right here. So a moving truck, to go to the example made by Mr. Hodgkins, gets stuck in the road, what's going to happen?
I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're asking.
So in theory, the road is blocked, and there's an emergency event because of the moving truck. What happens? And my point in raising this, I would respectfully submit to you that this development makes that existing condition that you have there today better and safer in terms of movements with respect to a safety response than exists there today.
So you're adding 80 families and you're concerned about the way Radio Road is now for a couple?
No, what I'm trying to say is that we're taking an existing intersection that's on Radio Road today with respect to site distance and movements. That condition will be improved by virtue of the fact of the new road going in. So you have proper site distance. You'll have a road that will go in that will serve not only this community, but will also benefit the homes that are on Radio Road there today, combined with the station and the ARC facility that's at the end of the road. So that would seem to be a beneficial result. There will be multiple circumstances to create the necessary movement to negate the safety concerns. And so we believe we've achieved that. We're going to make the pitch on the PennDOT for this third entrance point. But I'm telling you, they're not going to make that a public ingress and egress. It's just not going to happen.
Okay, well, I need to go back to what I said before. This, we're having a discussion. This is not a negotiation. We don't design your project for you. And we're talking about a whole lot of hypotheticals. And I think it's a dangerous mistake for us to respond to too many hypotheticals we need to see plans. We need to see it in context of what's actually there and what you propose to do. That's our job. And until we see that, I think we've kind of gone as far as we can go tonight.
Okay, fair enough. So I'm going to ask one direct question, and I'd just like a direct answer. Because I will tell you our interpretation of what constitutes the length of cul-de-sac. I heard something tonight. We have not heard anything about it. We've been at this a long time. These plans have been in front of your planning commission. Hadn't heard anything about this. It's been in front of your professionals. Hadn't heard anything about this. So what is the standard with respect to how the length of a cul-de-sac is measured so that there's no gray area?
So, Mr. Luciani, if you could read that ordinance again, please? I thought that was pretty clear.
It is pretty clear, and I will refer, it's been on our letters from the get-go. And I think you need to look at 289-41K6. 289-41K6. It's been on our letters from the very beginning.
Can
That
you
a
please-
waiver
can you
is
please read
requested
that?
of the 600-foot length. And if you want me to read K6, it talks about that very statement. Is that what you're asking, Mr. Chairman, for me to read?
Yes, please.
I can't find it in the book, but on my letter, it says that the single common ingress and egress of Druck Valley Road is well past the maximum 600 feet allowed. But it talks about, I'm not sure why this page isn't in here.
John, I have if you want me to read
Please,
directly the ordinance.
would you please? Because
Sure.
my page is apparently missing now, so.
It says temporary or permanent loop streets or cul-de-sacs shall not exceed a centerline distance of 600 feet in length as measured from the centerline intersection of the through street to the center of the cul-de-sac turnaround or to the most distant point on the loop street centerline.
So that definition,
Right.
it literally is taken from an intersection to the bulb of the cul-de-sac, correct? So if we create a new intersection that is that connector road, the cul-de-sac length is measured from the intersection to the end of the cul-de-sac.
So the way I read that
Through the
is,
through
the
street.
knockbox on a street, this does not say anywhere anything about emergencies and police being there to open up the roadway for people to be able to get out. It says from the intersection. There is only one intersection that is available for the public. That distance to the furthest cul-de-sac is more than 600 feet.
That's it.
It's almost 2,000 feet. And you have 80 families in there that are coming out one entrance.
We heard what you said. We're respectfully going to have to disagree.
I think we'll be happy to look at your plans when you resubmit.
Well, I'm not sure, we certainly can resubmit plans with the new road that would connect the two different sides of the subdivision. We'll take a shot at the PennDOT emergency interest. We'll ask them for a full-blown ingress and egress. It's not gonna happen, though, I'm just telling you. And frankly, again, to go back to what I heard, unless I'm wrong, even if we did get a full-blown entrance at the staff on Druck Valley, it still doesn't sound like we would meet what you guys interpret as the length of cul-de-sac standard, which we don't agree with. I'm just telling you. I think it's from where we're creating these intersections, or these intersections of the road, and that's where the measurement comes for the bulb. But even if we did get that, if you come into the subdivision, that section that's going to the left up towards Radio Road, what you're saying in terms of where the length of the cul-de-sac starts, we're just not going to meet it. I mean, no point in saying we are.
I would add in closing, because we do need to close here. I would like to have the opportunity to review other cul-de-sacs, other developments in the township. I think Ray makes a good point. Even if there was two entrances, and we'd have the two entrances and then our big circular loop, you still, by the way you're interpreting that, you would have to take the length of the cul-de-sac all the way back to Druck Valley, regardless of whether there's one entrance or two entrances. The cul-de-sac, the intention is, if you have a loop that has a circular, drive, the cul-de-sac, would be taken from that intersection and branch off from there. So you don't have a big, long cul-de-sac. You want smaller cul-de-sacs that are coming off of an intersection. But I expect that there's probably multiple developments in Springettsbury where the cul-de-sac length doesn't go all the way back to wherever the original, entrance is to the driveway from the road where we're connecting in. So I expect there's a number of developments that have cul-de-sacs like that. So.
I would suggest that while you're looking at that, you count houses. That would be another interesting piece of information.
Okay, we can do that for you. All right.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys.
Okay, next item on the agenda, communication from supervisors. Anyone have anything this evening? Mark, Don? Nothing there. Solicitor's report.
I believe, pardon me, I believe you guys have the one that James wrote about the Mount Zion Commons update. Do you want me to go over that, or is it, I'm happy to, it's up to you guys. I can get into the nitty-gritty. I also don't want to.
I thought it was pretty self-explanatory, but
I agree.
I did as well, yeah. That's these-
Yeah, pretty
good.
straightforward.
All right. Manager's report.
I do not have anything to add to my report.
Thank you, Mark. Anybody have anything for Mark?
Not here.
Ordinance and resolutions. First one, we're seeking here is adoption of ordinance 2025-09 related to no parking on Carroll Road, the north side between Courtly Drive and Plymouth Road.
This ordinance has been advertised as required and is ready for adoption.
Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of ordinance number 2025-09, amending Chapter 312 Vehicles and Traffic, Article 4, General Parking Regulations, no parking on Carroll Road, north side between Courtly Drive and Plymouth Road.
Second.
Motion is second. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Passed unanimous. Resolution 2025-52 is in follow-up to our public hearing earlier this evening, and this would authorize the transfer of the restaurant liquor license as outlined on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I move for adoption of Resolution 2025-52, authorizing transfer of restaurant liquor license R16097 to CHR Corp., doing business as Rudders, to the 725 Arsenal Road, York, Pennsylvania location.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Sorry we made you sit through that.
All in favor, please say aye.
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 Passes unanimous. Anything under old business anyone wants to discuss this evening? Sidewalks, 11th Avenue, America 250 celebration. Anything for new business this evening? Hearing none, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.